This video is about bias and offers some quick tips for identifying and understanding bias in primary and secondary sources. So what is bias? According to the dictionary, bias is an inclination or prejudice against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way that's considered to be unfair. Finding bias isn't difficult because it's everywhere. Everyone has their own opinions and point of view that will impact what they write or say. Sometimes those ideas can become biased. So when you are conducting research in newspapers or magazines, or reading a website or watching a video, keep in mind some of these tips to help you identify potential bias. Determining the credibility of a source can help you identify bias. It's a good idea to find out who wrote or created the source to understand if they have expertise on the topic. Consider the author's word choice. Excessively positive or negative language could indicate bias. Perhaps the sponsoring organization or publisher has their own bias and only presents material in support of that idea. If advertisements or political angles are present, they could also indicate potential bias. The intended purpose and audience can reveal bias. Many publications are written for a specific audience and will include works that are favorable to that position. If you're unsure of a source's credibility, take the time to do some digging and learn more about the author or publisher. You will have more confidence in deciding if the source is worthwhile for your research. An author's bias can affect the accuracy of their argument. You can spot potential bias when an author uses older information even though newer data is available. If an author doesn't provide sources for their own research, you should question the accuracy of their information. An author's word choice can also impact their accuracy of a source. If you notice an author using vague generalizations, hyperbole, or strong emotion, especially if there's not a lot of evidence, you should suspect the presence of bias. If you suspect bias has impacted a source's accuracy, take some steps to verify the information. Can you find newer research or corroborating sources that back up the author's ideas? If you can't verify the source's accuracy, you should consider a different source. Since every author has a point of view, there's always the possibility for bias. But fair and reasonable sources will have minimal bias. Not all sources will present a balance of information, and that's okay. Just be careful if an author's tone is harsh, accusatory, or derogatory, or even makes statements that overemphasize the significance of a topic. When examining primary sources, you typically won't see balance because the person created that source in the moment. Reliable secondary sources should be more balanced. It's your job as the researcher to find sources that will provide balance in your finished research. This will provide a broader understanding of your topic's context and significance. Good secondary sources are evidence-based. If you are considering a source that doesn't provide its sources, you should ask yourself why not. If no sources are given, you should question the legitimacy of the source. If sources are provided, you should be able to see a variety of sources used by that author. Primary sources most likely will not have a supporting bibliography, but you can cross-reference any specific details to ensure the source is true. So to wrap up, Bias matters because it shows the author's perspective and identifies possible external influences upon a source that may impact the information. Knowing that bias exists and how to spot it when conducting research encourages you to critically evaluate your sources. For more practice with identifying bias, check out the Identifying Bias Guided Practice for Students activity. Look for it on the Educator and Student Resources pages of the Connecticut History Day website.